Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and it's that time. Finally, I am going to rank the discography of amazing mathcore legends, the Dillinger Escape Plan. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, this one is a tough one, so I had to kind of retool even the whole tier maker format for this one, because the reality is there are no Dillinger Escape Plan albums below a B tier. So I split it up this way, you see it right now, so that I can still gradiate them all without feeling like I'm dumping anything somewhere lower than it deserves. But let's get into it. We got to start all the way back in 1999 with Calculating Infinity, and I do have the EPs on here, but I'm not really going to focus on them in this particular video, just because ultimately it overcomplicated things. So we're going to talk about Calculating Infinity first. Landmark album, obviously very important for the whole genre of mathcore, arguably. Like, there would not be mathcore without Calculating Infinity, or at least it wouldn't have blown up the way that it did. And some amazing songs on here. Obviously, we've got Sugar Coated Sour, great intro, amazing way to kick off this album. Lots of just incredible guitar work on here, very just efficient barked vocals, lots of jazz influences. You got 43% Burnt, absolute classic. I remember when I learned about this song first and I saw the live video of them like breathing fire along with that riff. Crazy, wild stuff. These riffs are just absolute insanity. You can't beat it. Fourth Grade Dropout, another deeper cut, personal favorite of mine. You got Destro's Secret. You've got The Running Board. Lots of amazing work went into this. That all said, this is my least favorite Dillinger Escape Plan album. I know already, like, a bunch of people are clicking away from the video and angrily commenting and hitting that dislike button. How dare you? Again, I know it's a landmark album, but if I'm comparing it to all of the albums that come after it, and just all of the innovation and expansion of what they do on this is like the foundation. It's the blueprint, and then they built so many cool things off of that. So for me, it's the one that I go back to listen to the least, and just in the full spectrum, in the context of all the other albums, it's kind of the least interesting for me to go back and revisit on a regular basis, save for its lead singles. So crucify me if you will, but I'm going to put this one at a B- and move on to Miss Machine. I freaking love Miss Machine. This is an incredible album. One of my all-time favorite albums. I remember I picked up Calculating Infinity and I enjoyed it, and took me a while to kind of really sink my teeth into that one. But ultimately, I picked that one up about a year, I think, before Miss Machine came out in 2004, I believe. And I pressed play. I bought it without hearing anything, just knowing that Dillinger Escape Plan was like this crazy band, and now they had this new vocalist, and years later, they had put out this album, and pressed play on Panasonic Youth. To this day, one of the best album openers of all time, and it just blew my mind apart. And still to this day, when I listen to that song and everything else on this album, it just destroys me. And then on top of that, like, this is still kind of like a Calculating Infinity sounding song, but then you throw in that like singing, the kind of Nine Inch Nails influences. The riffs are stepped up, the production is way better, like every aspect of it is just stronger. And then you've got Sunshine the Werewolf following that up, another amazing intro, incredible vocals. Greg just took this whole band to a level that they never could have gotten to. And obviously with Patton jumping in on that EP before this too, like had a big influence, I think, on the ultimate direction that they went, with just being more experimental, a lot more interesting too. And then they'd have these mathcore beginnings and then segue into a more kind of traditional, almost like rock song with these big hooks, these big powerful chord progressions. Just, So good. You got tracks like Phone Home where you've got these slow, eerie builds. I love the deep, just very Patton-esque vocals on this one. It just builds and builds into this big, explosive, what are we supposed to do thing. Yeah, it's so good. Anthemic, so many sing-along moments. Another great opening was Setting Fire to Sleeping Giants. Tonight! You can't not sing along to it. And then that amazing riff. Great verses, great choruses. And still noisy, still dissonant, but just the songwriting is to another level. You got weird stuff like Unretrified too. Pulling in those weird synthy, poppy influences, but still heavy, still intense. This is easily S tier. And if you want to argue that Calculating Infinity is somehow better than Miss Machine, you're off your rocker. You have gone completely insane. Absolutely mad. Miss Machine, S tier, still to this day, my favorite Dillinger Escape Plan album. But enough of me gushing about that one. Let's continue on to Ire Works. Now remember, when this came out, I didn't like it as much as Miss Machine, but I still quite enjoyed it. And I remember being a little bit surprised at the fan reaction, because especially at the time, I think a lot of people kind of crapped on it, said it was trash. Definitely not trash. Very good album. Still to this day, too, when I post things about Dillinger Escape Plan and the albums, like this tends to be the one that I feel like most people kind of point at as being the worst, but I disagree. And it's got some really high points on it. Lurch. Great song. Fix Your Face is a great opener, too. But Black Bubblegum, the 1-2 punch of Black Bubblegum and Milk Lizard for me is kind of what makes this album. The vocal lines on here, that groove, and it's so blissful. It's just, it's so cathartic. And those falsettos, Greg's vocals on this album are just amazing. And yeah, it gets a little bit experimental. Re-listening to it now, especially, like, I can see why, like, it has kind of lowered itself in its rankings for me, because we go on a weird experimental trip, but it's still kind of fun. Like, it's not bad, and I still find it honestly more interesting than Calculating Infinity. And Milk Lizard, man, these riffs and that little subtle horn section right there. I remember almost being disappointed that that wasn't there when they played this live. And there's a vocal moment on here that to this day is still one of my all-time favorite Greg vocals of all time. Let me see if I can find it. That part right there, his vocal inflection there is just so insane. Like, it's one of my all-time favorite vocal moments, I think, ever. And, man, Greg just, like, I could tell he really it seems like he took a lot of takes to get that just right. Maybe it just came out that way. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear from Greg on that. But in any case, yeah, very high points on this album, but then also some kind of weirder lower ones. I'm going to rank this as just a solid B. I like re-listening to it a little bit more than Calculating Infinity, but I get it again in terms of within the whole discography, why it tends to get ranked lower. So, moving on to Option Paralysis in 2010. This album has an interesting distinction for me in that it was the first album from Dillinger Escape Plan that I did not like when it first came out. I love the lead single, don't get me wrong. Like, they blasted this single in the music video, and I love the way it's shot and everything about it. But this intro, it just pummels you. It destroys you. The guitar and Greg's vocals and the drums, just absolutely destructive. And then there's this moment. That guitar tone there is so wild. And then the man, like, you can't not get sucked into that. And then that's not even like the whole extent of the song, because then the whole like second half is this slow, brooding build with, again, Greg's amazing vocals building in the screams, and it's just haunting. Just this haunting, long build to this outro. One of the best songs they've ever written. But then I listened to the rest of the album, and I was just kind of not into it for a long time. Never just really, like, sank in. Honestly, it wasn't even until this most recent listen that I started to pick up on some of the better stuff. But I already did enjoy Good Neighbor. It's a really solid song. Not my favorite, but it's got a lot of great parts on it. A lot of awesome guitars. Gold Teeth on a Bum has a lot of great moments too. But then the album kind of takes a weird detour in the middle. And though listening to it now, again, like comparing the detours on this to the ones on Ire Works, I think that the detours here are better constructed and they're less meandering. They kind of fit into the full runtime. And then you've still got other bangers too, like Room Full of Eyes. The drum. Dun, 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 dun. Great riffs on here. Chinese Whispers. Another great one. More brooding track. And then this groove here. Dun, 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 dun. It's almost like danceable. And it builds up into this louder part. Parasitic Twins, too. I love this as a final track. Just more haunting vocals from Greg, a lot of that falsetto singing. Very just serene, but also ominous. There's like this looming phantom over the whole thing. And it's just stunning with the piano and everything. Just gorgeous. Like, it's more of like a classical arrangement. But yeah, all that to say, this one's grown on me quite a bit. Previously, I put it pretty low, but I put it kind of right above Ire Works. B+, pretty solid. Still got some detours on it, but I quite enjoy it. But let's get into another one that I absolutely love, and that is 2013's One of Us Is the Killer. Honestly, this could probably tie for first place with Miss Machine, with just how many... Start to finish, this album's amazing. Starting with Prancer, incredible track, really fun. Just every track on this is high energy, high intensity, amazing riffs, amazing vocals, amazing drumming. Like, there is not a dud on this album. And the songwriting is just totally on point. When I Lost My Bet, I remember the first time I heard that, I was just blown by those drum breaks. So awesome. I'm gonna shake my headphones right off of my head, banging my head to some of these songs. The title track, One of Us Is the Killer. Nice little moody, kind of jazzy, bassy intro. This is just anthemic, more great falsetto. Just a top performance from Greg. In the air we try to breathe. Oh man. Whew. It's like you can't just listen to one track from this album. I'd argue over the years that this one may supplant Miss Machine one day in terms of my favorite. I love this final build on Hero of the Soviet Union. Nothing's Funny. Another fantastic mix here of the technical with these more weird parts with like this xylophone and the falsetto again. And then another catchy chorus. And then Crossburner, too. Long build on this one. Into these big, powerful wall of sound. It's like these tidal waves just crashing against you as the guitar sounds. Man, it's hard for me to just listen to snippets from that album without just listening to the whole thing. But gotta keep going. Gotta wrap this thing up. A tier, at least, if not S tier, for One of Us Is the Killer. And that leaves us with their swan song, Dissociation, from 2016. I love this album. I think it's probably the best final album that they could have written, and within the context of their discography, it just fits perfectly. This one just feels very much like a bookend to everything. Limerent Death opens with this great ascending guitar chord progression. More amazing guitar. Just everything you love from Dillinger in this opening track, keeping things on a strong side. And then you've also got Surrogate, nice bass intro on that one. Boom. Lots of noodly, weird stuff. More experimentation on here too, because I mean you've also got tracks like Fugue that are just straight up like breakbeats basically, more of like an Aphex Twin thing. But again, like, I love it. I just love how it all comes together, and I love that. Just this idea that to the very end, Dillinger Escape Plan were not content to just do the same thing over and over again, make the same album again. They wanted to push the envelope and the boundaries to the last day, and most of these songs do that, some more than others, but still delivering that foundational stuff. Manufacturing Discontent. Really great mathy little riff there in the beginning. Just so good. Nothing to Forget, too. That guitar effect, that is just anthemic. Like, you gotta get out the lighters for that one. You gotta do the corny white guy sway, too. Like, that's what that makes me want to do. So good. And then, yeah, this part, too. I don't need any wing. A very, like, Mike Patton kind of vocal on that part, too. But yeah, then the final track, too, just stunning. Like, I almost wanted to cry the first time I listened to this, because it really was that feeling of finality, that, wow, this is over. This is the end of an era. This is the end of one of the greatest bands of all time. And just absolutely stunning, perfect way to not only close out the album, but just their entire career. And this, like, final, last thing you hear is Greg's voice, just haunting with that effect. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So yeah, I love Dissociation. I know there were mixed reactions to it. There's always going to be that. But for me, it's a nice solid A-. Not quite as good as One of Us Is the Killer. Not quite as good as Miss Machine. But it's right up there in my top 3. Deserves at least somewhere in the A tier. And then again, you've got these EPs. It's hard for me to rank them. Mike Patton stuff I love to death, but it's just so weird and experimental that it's hard for me to even, like, place it. So I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to leave it at the full-length releases. And yeah, those are my rankings for the Dillinger Escape Plan and each of their albums. But now it's your turn. Let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite Dillinger Escape Plan album? How would you rank them? I will even leave a link to this tier list so that you can make your own, post it on our social media. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.